We are kind of pushing through pretty fast. I think if you really wanted to, you could really just sit down and enjoy all the different spaces. It's just beautiful out here. We're heading into the park.
This is one of the main tourist attractions here in Japan.
Nothing like going to Japan for some Georgia coffee.
Where are we at, baby?
Lex, how you doing?
Good morning.
Just leaving. Good morning.
Where are we headed, boo?
Today we are headed to Nara.
Nara.
So we are going to see the bowing deer, the famous bowing deer.
Bowing deer? Like they actually bow?
They bow.
Ooh.
Where did they learn that from?
And before we get into the day, we've got to make a quick pit stop.
Let's go with Tully's.
Ooh. Have you had that one before?
Tully's.
Oh yeah, Tully's.
When in doubt, choose the boss.
Is that what it's called?
The family's boss.
The family's boss.
What does Kieran know about coffee?
Ooh.
I don't know, but I like their beer.
Ooh, love it.
It's a terrible way to make decisions on how to buy coffee. Like crispy soy sauce flavored rice crackers.
For some reason, figuring out these ticket prices were a little tricky, but we made it.
Look at this train. It's like grass and floor. So cute.
Check out these cute deer grab handles. And so we made it to Nara, but first, a quick commercial.
Kieran. They also make good coffee, and I'm a fan. We're here at the station in Nara. One of the things that I'm excited about is this region is known for persimmons, and so they have a lot of foods and things that include persimmon or persimmon leaves. Also, one of the earliest places that sake was made was in this region.
No way.
Yes, at a temple.
What? Okay.
No, those priests were getting down, right?
Now, Nara was high on our list. The crowds, not so much. I had done the research. I knew it would be busy, but there's a difference between reading about tourism and standing shoulder to shoulder in it. This felt chaotic. A collision of selfie sticks, tour flags, and the quiet dignity of a city that's seen over 1,000 years of history. And by the time we crossed 20,000 steps, our legs were done and our patience was thinning. But here's the thing about days like this. They have a way of teaching you things you didn't know you needed to learn, and Nara taught us something about peace.
Now you gotta be kind, because...
For over 1,000 years, the deer in Nara were considered to be divine messengers. As the legend goes, a Shinto deity arrived here riding a white deer, and from that moment, these animals were considered sacred. Harming one was even once punishable by death. After World War II, they were reclassified and no longer sacred, but protected wildlife. These deer here seem a bit aggressive, but we learned that the bound for food was just learned behavior once they discovered that was rewarded with food.
They're like, do I bump you? Do I ask you for food? This guy is... Bow, baby. Try it one more time. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's so cute. Hey, cutie. Ow. Hi, cutie. Oh. Wow, their fur is thick.
Now, Nara draws millions for the temples, the history, and the deer, and it's loud, it's crowded, and it moves fast. Yet for a moment we stood among animals once believed to be messengers from heaven, and somehow in all that noise there was stillness. There's still more to come, so we've got to continue.
If you're traveling pretty far, you get overwhelmed by the deer pretty quickly. Look at how many. They're everywhere. So it's nice to know that there are plenty of restaurants, coffee shops, a lot of history. There's a museum, right?
There's some shrines, there are temples. The oldest Buddha statue ever is out here. Statues, dimensional architecture.
Old architecture. Yeah, and we generally love museums, but we feel like being here in the country is a museum within itself. And we did a museum the other day. That was incredible. So we're gonna make the most of the time and to start off with some food.
Ed chose a place for us along our travel route, and French food it was. The decor was grounded in warm, natural textures, wood, light, greenery. It felt lived in, familiar, like we had walked into a cozy home rather than a place trying to impress us. Ed got to enjoy a breakfast crepe and a salad. I wanted soup and onion gratin with some cheese bread, which was delicious. We also had our own little tea time, and I absolutely loved the presentation and experience. The review seemed average, but we enjoyed our experience. And that means we're off.
There are so many historic and scenic sites worth visiting in Nara that you could easily spend 2 full days here to take it all in, but we don't have that time. So as we make our way to the Nondaimon Gate, we can see plenty of tourists and some deer scattered about. And this gate has stood here since the late 12th century and was rebuilt after a civil war. And it was designed to impress you before you ever step inside with its massive wooden pillars. And the closer you get, the smaller you feel. And that was deliberate. In a Buddhist temple architecture, a gate marks a transition between the ordinary world and something sacred. And you just walk through it. You pass into something. On the outside was the everyday world, but once you pass through the gate, you enter into a sacred space. As the structure rises in front of you, centuries old and impossibly steady, you start to feel the weight of how long this place has been standing, watching generations arrive the same way we are now. And the Neo, or 2 wrathful and muscular guardians of the Buddha standing on either side of the gate, they're symbols of protection. They ward off evil, intimidate harmful spirits, and symbolically protect the Buddha inside. The Nondaimon wasn't built just to let people in. It was built to prepare them, to mark the boundary between the ordinary and the sacred, and to remind you before you even step inside that what awaits beyond is meant to be revered. Now, with that massive structure of a gate behind us, we decided not to do the Todaiji temple and instead opted for some gardens.
So we're at some garden right now. I don't know the proper name for it. However, let me show you my view. Isn't that neat?
One of the things that caught Ed's attention was the thatched roof on this building. We didn't know this was a thing in Japan, but he's seen it in Europe. From researching, he learned it's also used in Africa, Asia, and most of the Americas. And of course, he knew it was used in the South Pacific. Yoshikian doesn't overwhelm you. It reveals itself slowly. The garden isn't ancient in the way Nara's temples are. It was built in the 1900s, but it rests on land layered with centuries of history. The garden is divided into 3 intentional and distinct styles: a pond garden, a moss garden, and a tea ceremony garden. Even the mountains in the distance are intentionally framed and folded into the design. It's a reminder that peace isn't accidental but arranged. As we made our way back toward the street, just around the corner awaited our second garden. It might look like that was a quick trip on camera, but we took our time. We lingered, we reflected, and we wandered. There's a quiet kind of luxury in not moving fast.
And there are tea houses here, so maybe have some tea.
So beautiful to be here and see the different gardens, see the different colors. We're here in the fall, and
It's a great time to be here.
In Japan's early court culture, gardens weren't just places to stroll. They were stages for poetry, moon viewing, and quiet refinement. Nobles once gathered beside winding streams to compose verses while practicing the art of moving slowly. Isuian carries that lineage forward. The original garden was built in the 17th century by a Nara merchant. Not a king or a warlord, but someone who understood the power of restraint. It was later expanded in the Meiji era, carefully composed to borrow the mountains and even the distant temple roofs into its design. There's a great deal of thoughtful intention put into every area of the design. And walking through it, you can almost sense that older rhythm where presence is measured not by urgency, but by attention.
Having made our way back out to the entrance we walked in from, we stopped off for our first matcha tea experience in Japan. This is also Ed's first time trying it. The matcha you drink will vary from region to region in Japan because flavor is affected by similar things that affect wine grapes: what's in the soil, the elevation it's grown at, the humidity, rainfall, and even temperature swings. This isn't a tea ceremony, we're just taking a break to order some. But I think when foreigners imagine attending an actual ceremony, they might think of matcha as powdered green tea whisked into something smooth and vibrant. But for centuries, this drink wasn't common because it was for the aristocrats. Only later was it embraced by samurai and powerful lords. Ordinary people like us would have drank steep tea. Even the process of drinking matcha is different from steep tea. It isn't infused and discarded. You consume the whole leaf, ground it into powder, leaving nothing wasted. Sitting there, cradling the bowl, it felt less like drinking tea and more like participating in an ancient tradition, a ritual of patience, presence, and care. Does it make it taste any better? Maybe not, but there's something special about slowing down long enough to notice what we've been given.
A little bean paste wafer. See it? Look at that.
Ooh, delicious.
Actually pretty good. And the matcha is a bit, because it's bitter, this sweet bean paste wafer tastes great with it before. How are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it. It's so special to experience different cultures, different tastes, different colors. It's really fun. And I get to do it with you.
Yes. Thought you were pretty good.
As we prepare to leave this beautiful view, we make our way out towards the street to head into Naramachi. There really is a lot to see, but Ed took one of the back streets to avoid the crowd so he could view some of the architecture. Centuries after Nara stopped being Japan's capital, Naramachi took shape during the Edo period and quietly flourished. As waves of pilgrims continued to visit Nara's great temples, merchants settled here to serve them. These wooden townhouses, or machiya in Japanese, were designed for business in the front, life in the back. They weren't built for emperors, but everyday life. And maybe that's exactly why it still feels lived in today.
We're laughing because I went through a store. I love these clothes, and then Ed's been looking at all the architecture, and we were like, ooh, what it would be like to get like a 5,000 square foot house here in Japan. And we're talking about our wallet, and I said, my wallet's saying me no, but my body, my body is telling me yes. He's like, my wife is crazy.
That's so funny.
We came to Nara to see what all the hype was, and honestly, the crowds were somewhat overwhelming. And I suppose we experienced peace in different garden spaces or while drinking tea when it was quieter. But peace doesn't belong to a garden or a temple, and you don't have to take a vacation to experience it. It lives in attention, in gratitude, in spending time with loved ones and choosing to be fully there in the moment. And when you slow down long enough, you realize it was available all along. Maybe peace isn't about escaping all the craziness going on around us in the world right now. Maybe it's learning how to notice what's steady underneath it, the love beside us, the breath within us, and the quiet gift of this moment.
Interesting taste. Sniper roll.
That's good.